All right, so we're gonna give this a try. For those of you who are used to this YouTube channel and are used to the video content that I've been putting out on YouTube, it's gonna be a little bit different of a thing. I hope you appreciate it. If you don't, I understand, because it is different than what we've historically done on this YouTube channel. For those of you who've come over here from TikTok, if you look through the body of videos that are on this YouTube channel, they're not going to be anything like what you've seen on TikTok. And for those of you who don't know, who've been on the YouTube stuff, I've been over on TikTok for the last few months, doing some stuff over there that's different than what I do here on YouTube. Just kind of rants about stuff. And so I've gotten a fair bit of requests from the people who have been following over on TikTok, which I've been extraordinarily blessed. I'm almost 60,000 followers on TikTok at this point, to make some a little bit longer form videos. And because of the way TikTok's structured, you don't have the ability to do that. So I decided I was going to do this week's rundown on the situation in Ukraine on YouTube, and then tell the people over on TikTok if they want to see the long form of it, they can come over here to YouTube to see it. So again, for those of you who appreciate it, I understand that. If you're just used to the workout stuff and you have no desire to see this, I completely understand that too. It's a different thing. So anyways, so let's go through this. So as of today, which is March the 18th, where are we sitting in Ukraine? Now, we've been having these, if you're a YouTube person, not a TikTok person, we've been having these discussions and a lot of question answer stuff over on TikTok. So, they're going to be kind of used to this. This will be new for you guys from coming from me. But so where are we sitting right now in Ukraine? Well, Ukrainians have actually, they've been putting up a lot of good small unit tactic stuff. They've been making some hard fought victories. There are videos all over the internet of the actions that Ukrainians have been taking and the victories that they've won. But, are they winning the war? And we'll answer that question here in a little bit. They're making some good headway, and they're actually, with the weapons that have been supplied to them from NATO nations, they've really taken it to the Russians. But it is what it is. They're still losing ground, and where I'm going to show you the live map here in a little bit, they're still losing ground. Okay, there have been some times where they've claimed that they've regained territory, but everything that's coming through that's geo-verified is they continue to lose ground. Okay, so let's not be unclear about that. Ukraine is definitely winning the war on the internet as far as everything that you see. And I cautioned people the other day on TikTok not to be disenfranchised with the notion that Russia would ultimately win out. And the reason for that is that Ukraine is allowed to post anything and everything they want about what they've done in this battle space, and everybody stands there and applauds it and says, great, yeah, Ukraine blew up a Russian tank, Ukraine shelled Russian artillery. Well, yeah, Russia has been completely banned from being able to post any of their stuff on the internet, and so you're not seeing the Russian side of this. You're seeing Ukrainian victories and Russian defeats. You're not seeing Russian victories and Ukrainian defeats. Okay, and again, if you take the time to go through the internet and you look at it, you will find video of Russian victories, and you'll find where they've come up on armored detachments and they've completely annihilated entire armored detachments. They've completely taken out entire artillery companies. They've captured caches of weapons. To include one video I watched, was a Javelin anti-tank missiles provided to them by the United States. So, we are seeing a lot of videos that come directly from the front lines in Ukraine, but we're only seeing half of it. We're seeing Ukrainian side of it, and I'm sure that, because they are winning the propaganda war, I'm sure that everybody's sitting here thinking that Ukraine's making, really, really good headway. But they're losing ground. Again, they're losing territory. So, and again, the small unit tactics stuff that they have been hammering away at that. They have managed to make some key victories. They have killed Russian generals at the front line. Now, we spoke about that a little bit this morning on TikTok, and one of the things about that is the Russians were supposed to undergo an overhaul over the last 10 years or so, and bring their forces up to modern battle standards, right? Bring up body armor for all their infantry personnel, bring up communications gear for all their personnel, bring up all these things. Well, U.S. military uses this thing called Blue Force Tracker, right? Which tells you where you are in the battle space, where all your other friendly forces are in the battle space. When you encounter the enemy, you can put that, where they are in the battle space, and it gives you situational awareness. And Russia does not seem to be able to do that. Not only does Russia not seem to be able to do that, so their generals have to be further towards the front and more in harm's way, if you want to call it that, in order to be able to make judgment calls and situational calls so that their forces can react to what's going on in battle space. The Russians don't seem to be able to have conversations that would link together different parts of their military, i.e. they can't do a combined attack that involves armor and air assets, okay? Evidently, their air assets don't have a very good way of communicating with their armor. I'm imagining that there is a role somewhere in the Russian military for a JTAC, but they don't seem to be able to pull this together, okay? And I think that's really hurting them in the battle space. As far as Russia goes, they don't have air superiority at this point in time. Now they're close. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're failing at it. They can shoot missiles into Ukraine at will. A lot of their sorties that they run with their aircraft are effective, but they don't have air superiority. They can't say that. And now there's some missile systems that are being brought into Ukraine that are going to make their ability to, dominate through the airspace even less effective. So it'll be interesting to see. I haven't seen Russia's reaction to the claim that these missile systems are going to be provided to Ukraine. It'll be interesting to see if they view it as a point of hostility from the West, providing them with these, because there was so much said when we were bringing Patriot missile batteries into Europe from Russia that this would potentially be an act of hostility, that I haven't heard anything. But then again, the Russian side of this is shut down. They're not allowed to post anything, so you're not really hearing what their reaction is. And part of that scares me, and I'll go off the center here for a minute, but part of that scares me is if Putin is saying every day, hey, you guys are getting 1 inch closer to me nuking your tail, we're not able to hear it because he can't post it, right? So he may be saying it in international forums. The media, because, we can all rely on them, the media may be no closer to posting it, but we don't get to hear it because they can't post it, right? They can't post their view on this thing. So we're not getting an accurate description of what's going on with this. And again, there are ways to find what he's posting. Unfortunately, if you find what he does post, in a lot of cases, there's no transcript to it. So there's no closed captioning. So you don't have an idea of exactly what it is saying unless you speak Russian. So unless you can interpret that. The other thing is Russia has no threat to their home front. It's not like Ukraine is lobbing missiles back at them into Moscow. And so their people, although they know, for the most part, that they've entered into Ukraine and they're fighting in Ukraine, there's no threat to anybody living in Kaliningrad. There's no threat to anybody living in Moscow or St. Petersburg or anything like that. And, I have sat down and tried to think, would there be an advantage to Ukraine lobbing a couple missiles over into Russia and making them, more ardent on the home front as far as making them prepare or protect their own cities? it's probably a really bad idea, to be honest with you. But again, the Russians get to it. It's like when we attacked Afghanistan. We weren't in any fear of anything from, ISIS or Taliban coming back other than small unit terrorism stuff. But you don't even hear that from Russia. So, there is no threat to the Russian home front. Again, Russia is continually gaining territory in Ukraine right now. There is no beating back the band for them. They have constantly gained in the battle space, and I'm trying to see if I can exit this out. No, it's not gonna work. I was gonna show you guys a live UA map of it, but you're not gonna be able to see it on the screen out here in the sun. So, but if you'll look at the entire southeast area of Ukraine, it is in red, and Moldova forces have come in from there. The port city of Odessa is probably going to fall within the next few days. Mariupol is pretty much gone. Russia is gaining territory. If you pay attention to the live UA map, every day that line moves a little bit more. And if you'll notice, everything that's produced in that map, and I initially told a lot of people to go there because it was all verified information that was on it. But if you'll notice now, everything on that map comes from the side of Ukrainians, because everything has to be geo-verified through social media. And because the Russians can't produce anything on social media, none of their stuff goes on to the live UA map. So I don't even think live UA maps accurate anymore, to be honest with you, because they can't post anything. The Russians can't, so you don't see their side of this entire conflict. The Russians are still, as of yesterday, asserting that they have found proof in Ukraine of bioweapons labs that were supported and funded by the United States, among others. And they've tried to bring that out in the UN. They've tried to bring that out in international forums. The press isn't really covering it, but ultimately at the end of this whole thing, depending on the press coverage and what social media allows to be produced, they may be able to make a solid argument for that case. Thing about Russia is I heard somebody say the other day that the argument was that NATO couldn't go into Ukraine because Ukraine was never a sovereign nation and it was still a district of Russia, and so they would technically be invading Russia. And the United States recognized Ukraine as a sovereign nation on Christmas Day in 1991. The argument that Ukraine is still a province of Russia is absolutely not correct. They are recognized as their own sovereign entity. They have their own government. Their government is separate and apart from Russia. That's why when Zelensky was voted in as president, he was voted in as president, not Putin as president, Zelensky as president. So this argument that NATO doesn't go into Ukraine because it's still a sovereign province of Russia is absolutely incorrect. And it's one of those, hey, let me come up with a great conspiracy theory to hand you that maybe you can work off of. And it's not, because they are a sovereign nation. They were recognized by the United States of America on Christmas Day, 1991, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. But the thing about it is, Putin's told everybody, hey, listen, NATO comes into Ukraine, I'm going to consider it to be an act of aggression against my forces, and I'm going to nuke you. And he's been very consistent in that. He has said the entire time 4 instances in which he would use a nuke are a ballistic missile fired at Russia or one of his allies, a nuke being used against his forces on the battlefield, a nuke being used against, or an attack on a nuclear facility in his country, or if Russia was so far down the tube in an invasion that they felt like the only choice was to use a nuke to keep their country as a sovereign nation, he would do it. And then he's added a 5th in there. And that would be anybody enters into the Ukraine and tries to make an aggressive move against his country, he would nuke you. So that's why NATO isn't in Ukraine. It has nothing to do with Ukraine still being a province of Russia. All right. Putin has fired 8 generals to this point. So anybody, I say he's on his plan, but I say he's modifying his plan. I'll tell you now, I believe he's modifying his plan, because I believe that he initially thought it was going to go better than what it has. He's faced the fact that's not what's going to happen. He's fired several generals in the process. As I've said, several of his generals on the front line have been killed by Ukrainians. But I still don't think that he believes he is losing anything, because the map keeps getting redder. And I think he's going to just continue to pound away and fight for territory until he's decimated Ukraine so much that they eventually just say, hey, we're willing to go to the negotiation table and give you what you want. And there's always the threat of chemical weapons from Putin. Putin used them in Syria. He's used them in other places. He's used them in Chechnya. He's used them in other places before. The potential of him using chemical weapons again is high. Would I be absolutely surprised to see him use a chemical weapon in Ukraine? No, I would not. So there's always the possibility of Putin launching a chemical weapon in Ukraine. Beyond that, the United States keeps talking to China about all this. China's been in a very kind of a weird position, because China has refused. They've sent aid to Ukraine. They refused to send airplane parts, although commercial airplane parts, to Russia. There was a report that came out that Russia's asked China for military help, which both China and Russia has denied. But there are Chinese media personnel embedded with Russian troops. You can go find that video online. And, just today, Joe Biden supposedly went and had a conversation with Xi Jinping about the place and, where everybody stands with Russia, and to reaffirm that we still hold the same stance on Taiwan. So there's been no indication that China's going to enter into that, but I really wouldn't put it past them. Beyond that, I mean, that's kind of where we're sitting. Do I think we're any closer to a nuclear weapon launch? Well, to be honest with you, I don't know, because, as I said, they're censoring everything that comes out of Russia right now. So you hear none of Putin's rhetoric. You have no idea what he's thinking at this point in time. And you're just having to guess at everything. So it would be nice if they would allow both sides of this thing to be out and open and for everybody to view, so everybody could gauge an opinion. But I do believe Russia believes they're winning. There's a lot of people out here saying that they believe Russia thinks they're losing the war. I don't believe that. I believe Russia believes they're winning. They continue to gain territory. They continue to indiscriminately artillery, shell, and bomb places at will. Nobody's stopping them from doing that. The other thing I will say about that live UAMAP is, we all know that just last Sunday, Lviv was missiled. Like 30 missiles went into Lviv and pretty much decimated 2 military posts they have on there. It's not even on live UAMAP anymore. So, not everything's being presented there. So for the TikTokers, I initially told you live UAMAP I thought was a solid place to go for information, and I'm starting to change my opinion on that, because I don't believe they're being as forefront with the information as they were. So there's where we go. We're sitting on March 18th. That's kind of where I think we are. I don't believe we're any closer to Russia using a nuke than we were a week ago, but I can't say absolutely positively, because again, Russia's being heavily censored, and we don't have the ability to figure out exactly what they're thinking at the moment. But that's where we are.